You're welcome to a fresh edition of your program, Towards a Greater Nigeria. And I still remain your anchor on Motayo on Motorshow. In actual fact, this is the very first edition of Towards a Greater Nigeria since after the inauguration. A hearty congratulations to the door. And we pray that God will give you all the enablement to truly move us to the next level of a greater Nigeria. Tonight, we're bringing you a documentary on the just concluded DigiFAB Summit Nigeria 2019, which took place at the Yaradua Center here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. I learned a great deal from that summit, and I'm sure it's going to benefit you as well. So sit down, relax, and enjoy yourself.
The manufacturing industry is changing rapidly with the development of new manufacturing processes and the use of computer algorithms to drive innovation. Manufacturers are under more pressure than ever to deliver better products faster, at lower cost, and with less waste. DigiFAB Summit Nigeria, an annual technology event series centered on digital fabrication, a key area of manufacturing, exploring the prevailing trends driving innovation in changing how things are made. First of its kind in Nigeria, the summit gave participants the opportunity to familiarize themselves with digital fabrication technologies like 3D printer, laser cutter, CNC milling machine, 3D scanning, etc. The summit served as the perfect platform for innovators and inventors to showcase their works at designated exhibition spaces. DigiFAB Summit Nigeria brought together leaders, research scientists, engineers, educators, entrepreneurs, innovators, students, policymakers, and people interested in the subject matter. The summit provided a high-profile platform for a dedicated movement that set the rise of a new industrial era and ushers in an optimized age of digital manufacturing in Nigeria, which will empower ordinary people to create technologies to solve local problems rather than just consume. The summit took place on the 23rd of May 2019 at the Shehu Musa Yaradua Center, Abuja.
Digital fabrication, as the conference is, refers to using computer-aided designs to generate solutions and objects that can help our day-to-day life. The impact of work, or the concept of work, is changing all around the world. You know, they tell us that in another 15 years, robots are going to be operating on human beings. So what it means is that in another 10 years, what we will be studying in school is going to be different, and then that is what we are trying to do. The world has moved forward, and then Nigeria is trying to catch up. So it means we have to move at 2 times the speed of the rest of the world so that we can catch up soon with them. So the conference is trying to bring knowledge to the youths, you know, because if you have an idea of where you're going to, that is when you can start to look for the resources and the skills. Knowledge is what we are trying to bring to the youth empowerment.
Mrs. Omotayo Omotosho, MFR, gave the welcome address at the summit.
To empower Nigerians, both young and old, need to realize their dreams. Are we on the path of realizing our dreams? This project has answers for us. What is your dream? How do you plan to acquire and achieve this dream? Towards a Greater Nigeria Foundation is committed to helping in our own little way to evolve the Nigeria of your dreams. Public enlightenment, public education, human resource development, skill acquisition, entrepreneurial development, women and youth empowerment are amongst our areas of focus, which is why we are supporting this noble initiative, which I choose to call an August occasion in the month of May. We live in a digital age where developments in technological advancement are on the surge. The only reasonable thing to do is move at that pace. Nigeria cannot afford to be left behind. The international community are running so fast that we cannot afford to just stay still and think we'll catch up with them one day. We must wear our running shoes and desperately, purposefully try to catch up, or else they will leave us behind. We need to bridge the skills gap and build an army that would compete globally in this era of undeniable digital advancements. Traditional manufacturing jobs are threatened more than ever before, and the new machines need people to work on them. We have the brains. We have determined Nigerian youths. We have youths that are ready to go. Are we creating that enabling environment for them to thrive? Are we making it easy for them to actualize their dream of being self-employed? Are we investing in human capital? Bill Gates visited us sometime early last year, and at the presidential villa, he told us that as a nation, our priority should be investing and investing and investing in human capital. A nation that does not invest in human capital will be left behind. We're here today because we believe we can do it. We're here today because we don't want to be left behind. We're here today to learn because there's no end to education. And we're here today to network and get ourselves on the information technology superhighway. You're welcome. God bless you.
The keynote speaker at the summit was Dr. Toby Oluwatola. His PowerPoint presentation was titled The Energy Disruption.
How do you know that the disruption is about to happen? And it talks about three things. The first one being technology cost to come. So typically, when a technology first starts, it looks like that because it looks like nothing is happening and everybody's saying that, no, this technology is going nowhere. It's kind of where digital, 3D printing is now. There is only the geeks and the weirdos that are dealing with it, that are looking at it, and the internet was in the 1990s. Only the geeks and the weirdos. And then people are saying this is going nowhere. And then it just starts to pick up. And then the next thing, exponentially, it just goes up, and then people are going, what's suddenly going wrong? Oh my God, we're doomed, it's everywhere, and that's what typically happens. And that exponential shift happens very quickly. That many times a lot of smart people and established companies miss it because they're unable to make that transition very quickly. So he says that the disruption occurs every time there's a 10x change in price. Prices just change by 10x. And I'll show you an example in the energy industry, what is happening in the energy industry very soon. Another thing that also happens is a convergence of technologies. So, for example, the iPhone was launched in 2007, not because Apple was the smartest company in the world, but because about 2007 was when 3G came about. About the same time was when mobile internet became faster. About the same time was where technology on touchscreen technology was developed and had come to the point where it was ready to go commercial. Established industries lose their market share and new companies take over. So take, for example, what Uber is doing to taxis. A lot of taxis are losing business today because there is now this technology-driven new system of getting around. And the same thing happened 100 years ago when at some point there were horses on the road, and less than about 10 years later, there was no more horse on the road, it was only cars. And the same thing is happening again today between internal combustion engine cars and digital self-driving autonomous cars. Because what digital self-driving autonomous cars, by 2020, you will be able to order a car, 2020, 2022, thereabout, you'll be able to order a car for less than 100 naira. Whereas if you buy fuel in your own car in a day, you will spend up to 500, 1,000 naira. So that is going to change the name of the game.
Ololade Otayemi, Fellow of the United States Department of State Mandela Washington Fellowship and an alumni of Clark Atlanta University School of Business, made a PowerPoint presentation titled Design 101.
Now, if you look here, the picture is not very clear, but you see, because when this happened, of course, they called fire service, called civil engineers and all of that. And all of them were trying to think about it with their engineering minds and all, thinking of, okay, can we bring the crane to pull out the truck, can we do this, can we do that? And the little boy, you read the story, the little boy was coming back from school and he was so frustrated and was like, you guys should just deflate the tires. Right? Now, everything we've said would have brought that truck out from underneath the bridge. Correct? But there are so many things that are destroyed. So many things will not be in one piece. Even the driver may not be in one piece. So, what design helps to do is to get to that point where the solution you are selecting or the solution you are choosing is the best solution to solve that particular problem. Okay? So,
I think this is a good opportunity for young people to learn from a very broad background of experience. The presentations today thus far have been very interesting. They've been focusing on things like design thinking and really infrastructure issues and thinking about ways to integrate technology to solve problems, but in a way that's applicable to Nigeria. And I think that's what's very important. It's the technological advances that happen so quickly today happen at light speed, and it's hard to make incremental steps. Instead, many countries take monumental leaps. So it's incorporating technology for a community in a way that makes sense, and that's important.
Ahmad Sadiq, founder of Microscale Embedded, also presented a paper titled Building Local Electronic Standards and Techniques.
You can actually get values like this direct from devices by adding something like this. Yeah, something like this. So I don't know how to explain it because without going into details. So what it means is that you can basically read directly from devices into your markup. So your pure HTML, you just put a few tags and they are reading from a device that is on another corner of the world, on another side of the world.
What we want to really achieve in it is we found out that the country is more of a consuming nation than a producing nation. And with the new executive order by the president that wants to boost local production and local capacity, we felt that this is the best time for us to start this movement because IT has made the world a connected place and more well-informed place where we can catch up. And a lot of speakers have spoken today and talked about how the technologies have moved towards closer to the people. And so this is part of it, that digital manufacturing is no more far from the people. And we are focused on empowering the people actually. We're not talking about big industries. We're focused on empowering the people, just like regular people use social media to change things in the country, and so we feel that also they can use digital technologies also to start building things and innovative things that will solve our problems as a people. And I believe we can catch up on it. And with the ICT penetration of about 103 million people and above, I believe we stand a chance of becoming a force to reckon with when it comes to digital manufacturing. And this program is actually an initiative between the ITSL Fab Lab and Towards a Greater Nigeria, who believes in programs like this to uplift the country from its stage now. And so we also want to create a path, a roadmap to digital manufacturing. We want to identify talents. We also want to empower the people, because it's all about empowering. I believe a lot of people will go back home today and their lives will never be the same again. They'll start thinking towards this side, and probably we'll get the greatest inventors from this.
Deborah Tanko, instructor/trainer in Mechatronics Department, Model Skills Training Center, Abuja, Industrial Training Fund, also made a PowerPoint presentation titled Robotics.
Use for robot in everyday life. Robots are that kind of machine that can be used in any situations or for any purpose. So, but today, many robots are generally used in dangerous environment, manufacturing processes, or that jobs which are dangerous for human beings. So we can see it's really helping us. As I said, it makes life more comfortable. It makes life more easier.
Nigeria is lagging so much when you look at the technological advancements around the world. So it means that everybody needs to come together and then do more. Double our efforts, individuals, private individuals, the youths, the older generation and governments. Nigeria is swamped with a lot of problems now. So if we wait for just the governments to help us to do things, I don't think anything is going to move forward. That is why individuals like us are trying to come together to empower the youth and then show them the way forward.
I think that Nigeria is behind, and unfortunately, I heard of a debate in the Senate where they talked about electric cars and they laughed it off the road, and they laughed the gentleman out of the room. And we're unfortunately not thinking sufficiently about this. Neither are we putting our resources into developing capacity to play in this market. And I think that there are a few technologies that there's one area where we're making an effort, which is in solar PV technology. We're making an effort in that space, but there's a lot more we need to do. We need to play in the energy storage game. We need to have Nigerian entrepreneurs start their own self-driving car businesses that can vie and rival Uber, because Uber, Taxify, these companies are international companies coming to take our money. And by the time they are the only ones that own the cars on the roads, Nigerian businesses will suffer for it. Now imagine what happens when the cars start driving themselves and Nigerians are no longer the drivers. When Nigerians are no longer the drivers, Nigeria no longer supplies them fuel. The solar that charges the batteries of the cars no longer belong to Nigeria. Nigeria is making no money in the entire value chain.
This is an opportunity to really to think about ways to utilize technology to advance economic opportunities in Nigeria. Young people are very, very affected by technology, and their future will not be the same. Even my own, my future was not the same as my parents' future. The same thing can be said for young people in Nigeria. And so it's understanding the technology, how it can be brought into a community at a level that is appropriate for that community and makes sense for the community, because sometimes having the latest technology isn't what works, but integrating technology is critical to making advancements. We all live in a world where computers are omnipresent, so the future for young people around the world involves technology. And that's, it's an opportunity for young people to think outside the box, think of new ways to integrate applicable technology, and really advance their own understanding and their own thinking of how it works for their environment.
When you talk about manufacturing in Nigeria, when you check the statistics, you find out that manufacturing, you find out bread making, and some other things like that, beverage, next thing. But we're not talking about cars, we're not talking about consumer electronics, we're not talking about that, which are the things that affect our daily lives. So digital manufacturing will help us achieve that, and it would give people the opportunity. What we are doing also is to reduce, the entry barrier to give access to people to these tools and knowledge. And Nigeria as a whole, in our diversity, we are so strong in our diversity. We have a good labor force. But the thing is, are we skilled enough to be able to compete globally? So it's part of the things we're trying to see, how we can equip ourselves with the skills of the future, the skills of the present and the skills of the future to be able to compete globally. And that's why we started with the model of the Fab Lab, a digital fabrication laboratory which gives access to tools and knowledge, and also to connect to people on this subject. These tools easily help you bring your ideas to reality when you design on the computer and you can send it to a machine and it produces it for you. So that's it. And we did a survey before we even started this and found out that 90% of people don't even know about it. For instance, the 3D printer. You say, hey, I think I've read about it and all, but they don't even know about it, 90%. And even the 10% that know it, most of them have not even seen it work. So, and in our lab, we have these machines, and we've been doing research for more than 2 years now. We've been able to create a lot of things, and we are so confident that we can create things because of the access that we've had. So that's the advice to the government, to build digital fabrication laboratories across the country for students, for entrepreneurs to be able to use, and people who want to make things and solve problems around their communities. And it's a community-based thing because it brings people in the community together to think about the problems and propose solutions using these technologies.
So as you are now, with your team of experts, you can manufacture most of these things you're talking about?
Yes. We're actually working on an artificial intelligence drone now. We believe when we are done with that, it will be a testimony of what we're talking about. And the good thing about it is our key player in this thing is a 16-year-old boy who is skilled with a lot of in robotics, programming, and all that. So, and we believe that it's not just him. There are millions of him around there, but they just need access. Since the time he had access to these technologies in our laboratory, he has been doing a lot. And we believe that...
Yours is a private organization?
Yeah, it's a private organization, but it's supported by the presidency because we won a grant through what we call Aso Villa Demo Day. Okay. Yes, which is a grant from the World Bank through Ministry of Trade and Investment and the presidency and some other bodies. Yes.
How much is the grant?
Yeah, we won $40,000. But we're meant to co-fund. We co-funded too, so we added some money, and we're able to get some of these machines, a 3D printer, a laser cutter that engraves, cuts objects. As you send from the computer to it, we have the vinyl cutter, we have the precision milling machine, and those things. The combination of these machines are meant to be able to make almost anything. And that's the concept we're also looking at.
Okay, the essence of the program, we have the theme which we call Digital Manufacturing, Diversity and Inclusion for Sustainable Local Content Development. We believe that Nigeria cannot exist in isolation. We believe that the world is a global village now, and the emphasis is on technology. And when we're talking of technology, we also want to ensure that we are building human capital in Nigeria. That's where the local content comes in. How are we equipping our Nigerian youths to be able to get the required skill, to be able to have the know-how to perform in the world that we call a global village? We're talking of digital fabrication, and we're talking of digital manufacturing. In the developed economies, everything is digital. We want to do more of mechanized farming. Let me now break it into pieces. Mechanized farming in Nigeria, when you're looking at agriculture. Agriculture is big-time business. We cannot continue with hoes and cutlasses. We cannot continue leaving our aunties and uncles in the village to bend down and start plowing and make it as strenuous as ever before. Well, viewers, this is where I call it a day on your program Towards a Greater Nigeria. And I've been brought you the documentary on the DigiFAB Summit 2019, which took place at the Yeredua Center. We've been told that as a nation, we must buckle up to be able to catch up on the technology superhighway. Nigeria cannot afford to be left behind. Next week, we'll bring you yet another edition of Towards a Greater Nigeria. I remain your anchor, Omotayo Omotisho.